Hey guys, so I'm still waiting for Zac to join. I hope that everything's okay and just a delay, and hopefully he'll be able to join in a couple of minutes. But we are running late already, so I did just want to get this stream started because I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. So sorry for that. Hopefully he can join soon. But until then, you're kind of stuck with me, and we could see how long we go on for. And sorry about the time. Like, I am going to try to make my streams later for you guys because I know in UK time, you're probably still working or getting back from work. And it's probably better for you guys if I do these a little bit later, but for me, it's more convenient to do them earlier. But I'll try to make that adjustment for you guys as well. So while we're waiting, we can just talk about Chelsea. We can talk about really anything. It can be very open. You guys can ask me basically anything that you want. It can kind of be like our little 10K celebration, a stream to celebrate that as well, since I never got around to doing one dedicated to that. So if you have any questions, feel free to just pop them in there. And until then, I'm just going to talk about the game. So Chelsea played Zenit, or Zenit, however you say it. I heard the commentator saying Zenit, and then I looked it up. It says Zenit, so I don't really know. On Tuesday night, hey Anan, thanks so much for joining and watching. And what did you guys think about the game? Because honestly, I was very bored watching that game. It was a boring game for me. But let me know if you guys kind of felt the same way or not. I just didn't feel like we really created that much. Do you think that it's because Timo Werner wasn't on the pitch? I think that Timo actually does create a lot of space. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Yeah, James, I was really bored watching this game as well. I didn't even end up putting a review video out, and I usually do, but I had some work for the Premier League. And by the time I finished that, I was like, you know what? Like, there's not even that much to talk about in this match, so I'm just not even going to bother doing a match review. But just felt like Chelsea really didn't create that much, didn't create that many opportunities. It was kind of hard to get into the game. I mean, that's also a credit to Zenit, that kind of rhymes as well. Yeah, they were really defensively strong, but I just feel like Chelsea have struggled in these low block situations. And that was a problem last season. And I'm kind of hoping that that changes this season, especially in the Premier League. I think that you face a lot of teams that tend to play a low block and try to catch you on the counter or try to catch you on a corner or something like that. And we did really well in the Champions League games because usually the games are more open and Chelsea are solid defensively. But breaking down those teams, I feel like we're still kind of missing that creative player. I really thought that Hakeem Ziyech was going to be that kind of almost like a Cesc Fabregas-esque replacement. And I feel like we really haven't had anybody like that since him. But we just don't really have that person that we can rely on who's going to break down that low block. Thank you so much. It doesn't mean that all of our attackers no longer know how to give through passes, even Ziyech. Yeah, I felt like, honestly, the person that looked like they were giving the best through passes was Kovacic, I felt, in my opinion at least, which was kind of surprising because I don't feel like he's really like known for his end product or like picking out a pass. He already has 2 assists, I think, this season, and I felt that he was at least doing the through pass as well. And then maybe once you get to the final third, he wasn't like picking his head up or getting the right shot away. But I think that that's something that all of the attackers need to improve. I really felt that Ziyech was going to do this. I don't think that he's really been the same player that he was for Ajax yet for Chelsea. It's been very, very inconsistent. He'll have a fantastic game, and then the next game, maybe he's not starting, or I don't know. Maybe it's because we have too many players, so he doesn't get that squad depth we have too much squad depth, so he doesn't get that consistent starting time that maybe you need in order to go consistently, play consistently, get a feel, get an understanding, gain chemistry with players to kind of know where they're going to be at. Fahad says Kobe is the most underrated player in the Premier League. Yeah, he's super underrated. I think Aspie is the most underrated player, you guys. You know me. You know that I love Aspie. Have a signed jersey from him. I think he's extremely underrated. But I think people praise Kobe a lot. But he's definitely one of the most underrated players as well. Something about that, like number 8 shirt, you guys, has just completely revolutionized him. Like scoring a goal, getting 2 assists, he's looked really, really strong. So I really like that. It's so awesome to know that we have so many players that we can really count on. But yeah, I was quite bored, and I think the main difference between last season and this season is now we're not playing well, but we're still winning these games. And Zac just joined. Hey, Zac, how's it going? Thanks so much.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I literally just lost track of time.
No, don't worry about it.
3:30, then it was 4:00. I'm so sorry. How are you?
Don't worry. I'm good. I was just chatting. I was like, well, I'm just going to get it started so that they're not waiting so long. And I'm just like taking questions and basically rambling on about Chelsea.
I'm so sorry. I do apologize.
No, don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. I don't think they mind. I'm just here chatting away. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Got a bit of a cough and a bit ill, but it's not COVID, so I'm all right on that front.
Anytime I get anything, I'm like, it's COVID.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that all the time. But no, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Thank you. How are you?
Well, thanks for still coming on, even though you're not feeling like completely great.
No worries.
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to have you on, guys. For those of you that don't know, Zac and I met. I was on Chelsea TV like a month or so ago, something like that, and we got the opportunity to meet. It was super, super fun. So I knew that I had to have him on the channel. I've been absolutely buzzing since he said that he would come on.
Exactly. Thanks very much for having me.
Anytime, honestly. So we were just kind of chatting about the Champions League game for Zenit. I've heard both pronunciations, so I really don't know which one is correct. But what was your take on the game? Because I was saying that I felt that it was kind of like a really boring game.
Yeah, I think that's one way to put it for sure. I mean, I said it on Chelsea as well, that like, I think sometimes when you go into games like this, people expect, because obviously we're very good, that we're going to like smash teams 4-0, 5-0, all this kind of stuff. But like, fair play to Zenit. Like sometimes teams turn up and go, you know what, in this game, we've got a much better chance of getting 1 point than 3 points here. So let's try and shut up shop and maybe play them on counter-attack, get a lucky goal or so. And that's what I think Zenit did. They defended really well. Like that was one of the best defensive performance I've seen against Tuchel's Chelsea side in quite a while. It was really impressive. Obviously, when teams play like that, it's not fun for the viewer. Like, it's not fun to watch as a Chelsea fan, as a football fan in general. But I mean, we've also kind of done that as well over our kind of career as watching Chelsea. We've had managers that do that and sometimes shut up shop against kind of better teams, and there's nothing necessarily against it. But yeah, no, it was a little bit boring, and that's the difference when you have Romelu Lukaku. Like when you spend £97 million and you have a play like that, and he goes and scores in those games, he's the difference of being a 0-0 for a 1-0 win for us.
Exactly. That's what I was saying as well, that last season we had these games that we didn't necessarily have the creativity or the end product in order to break down these low block sides. And we're still kind of seeing that struggle. I think it's something that the team does need to work on. But the difference, like you said, is Romelu Lukaku, that he's turning some of those losses and draws into wins for Chelsea. And I think something that really stands out is, for example, I don't think we played that well against Aston Villa. I think in the first half, they actually played way better than we did.
Yeah.
But even though we didn't play well, we still won 3-0. And so even though Chelsea aren't playing well, we're still getting those results. So how important do you think that Lukaku is to this team, to the system?
Oh, massively. Like you mentioned Villa there, that's another game where if it wasn't for Lukaku, like it could have been a draw or a loss possibly. Like Villa weren't a bad side either. The score kind of probably flattered us 3-0. It makes people think that Villa didn't really have a chance, and they did, especially in that first half. And as I kind of mentioned, yeah, that's the Lukaku effect. He's maybe the best striker in the world, and having that kind of guy, he's going to get you out of those situations when you've not necessarily played well, or you've had games which have been tough to kind of break down defenses. Just the half chance, just that maybe kind of a 50-50 ball, he takes that chance. Whereas, for instance, other players, not that they won't get to that level, but they're still developing. A lot of this Chelsea side is still developing. So to have a guy like Lukaku, where Aspie can just kind of whip in a 60-70% chance ball and he makes it 100% with a fantastic header, or like Villa, where Kovacic plays a brilliant ball through, but it still requires quite a bit of effort from Lukaku to cut inside, finish really well. Like we've had those chances last season, and it kind of speaks for itself that Jorginho was our top goal scorer, and he mainly took penalties. Whereas this time around, I'm pretty sure Lukaku's probably going to be top.
Yeah, I mean, really no doubt about it. I think he has 4 and 4 for Chelsea already, already hit the ground running. And what I've been so impressed with, and you kind of touched on it, is that he doesn't need that many opportunities. He doesn't even need a super clear-cut chance. He creates something out of nothing, and he's so clinical that he still manages to just get his shot away, and it goes in 90% of the time, which I think is so interesting. We have a comment from Sam. He says, we haven't really got out of second gear yet this season, but we're getting results, which is something that we haven't been able to do for a long time. I totally agree. But Zac, what do you think we need to do to get out of second gear? What do you think is going on with the team right now?
I think it's just because it's the beginning of the season, right? Like a lot of them came back at different times with the Euros, with the South American competition, Copa America. And so this kind of happens in every season. Like teams take a little bit of time to get going. And then in between that, you've got another international break that comes in. So I always kind of feel like with the September international break, it's really rough because just when it feels like you're getting going and the games are back on the way, they all go away for a week or two to play for their international countries. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. We've got Spurs coming up, Man City, and those games as well in particular are games that the players are going to be up for. They're the ones that, whereas maybe, and I'm not necessarily, I don't mean it in a negative light to these clubs, but say playing for instance, if we played a Norwich or if we played a Villa, they're games that maybe because it's still so early in the season, the players aren't quite ready, aren't at full fitness or full game kind of attitude wise or whatever to be going at it. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. And I also kind of think every club is dealing with it. It's not just Chelsea. You look at the United side that kind of beat Newcastle but then struggled in the Champions League. You look at, say, I'm trying to think of the other boys, even Liverpool. I know they've won their games, but they've not necessarily looked at 100%. So I'm pretty sure after maybe the City game, I know there's going to be another international break, but I mean, even after the Spurs game, during the Spurs game, I think all of them are going to be at it, and we'll start really seeing this side. I mean, the fact that we're already kind of really entertained and really excited, the Arsenal game, for instance, kind of shows you that once these guys are at their top peak and going at it, it's going to be very exciting.
I know. I'm just so excited to have football back consistently, week in, week out. It's been a long summer, even though we had the Euros, which is a treat, and the Olympics as well. It was just I miss seeing Chelsea play.
Yeah, proper, 100%. I agree.
So, yeah, like you said, going against Tottenham, I feel like there's just such a big rivalry there that even if Tottenham weren't playing well or Chelsea weren't playing well, that game is always going to be 10 out of 10 because both teams want to shine. So Tottenham kind of had a weird start to the season. They were kind of squeaking by wins. They just lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace. So do you think that they're going to be any easier to face that they just lost 3-0, or do you think that's going to fire them up even more? I think Son might still be out. Darwin might be out. We're still kind of waiting on that as well.
So I think it's going to be quite dependent on those guys that are out. Missing Heung-min Son is huge. At times people question whether actually the most important player to that Spurs squad is maybe Heung-min Son with the way that Nuno wants to play his football. So yeah, I think it's very dependent on whether he's out, whether Dyer is out, as you kind of said. But I mean, quite frankly, Chelsea go into this expecting to win. Like we're the favourites for this game. I mean, if I'm Emerson Royale, who just got ripped apart by Wilfried Zaha, who, fair play to him, is also one of the best one-on-one wingers in the world, especially in the Premier League. But I'm still not looking forward to facing any one of Chelsea's attacking outposts, whether that is Mason Mount, whether that is Kai Havertz, Callum Hudson-Odoi, you name it. And then even for the defenders, I mean, they had a rough time dealing with Odsonne-Édouard, who's only on for 10 minutes. Imagine 90 minutes of dealing with Romelu Lukaku, who's playing fantastically and scoring every single game at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea are in a position now where realistically every game we're expecting to win, we're wanting to get 3 points from in every single fixture. And with the way the Premier League you need to. I mean, we saw a season when Liverpool got 90 plus points and didn't win the league. So these games for sure, like we have to be winning as much as the lower games against, say, your Norwiches, your Burnleys. But yeah, no, I mean, for Spurs, it's going to be interesting. It's very, as I said, dependent on whether those guys are back. And I kind of think maybe Nuno at one point might kind of be going with damage limitations rather than wanting 3 points.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. And it kind of goes back to the fact, how are Chelsea going to break down this team? Because I do feel like they're probably going to sit back, try to absorb the pressure and catch us on the counter. They do have a really strong counter, maybe not as strong if Son isn't playing, but they'll still have the likes of Harry Kane as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game. I do want to talk more about Spurs, but I also don't want to neglect the chat too much. I'm kind of making this like very chill stream session, and we're just kind of going to go back and forth. I don't have like a set plan. So Rags, how does it feel to be old and watch yourself? I feel so old. When you posted your age, I was like, oh my god, I feel like a grown.
It's not even that. Like, so I started doing YouTube when I was like 13, 12, whatever. But like I started as a job properly when I was 18. That's when I joined Football Daily, and so like I've been doing it now for what's that, 6 years. And so like that's the bit in my head where I get like caught up, and I'm also really bad at like and I know people are like, oh no, you've done really well and all that, and I really do appreciate that, but like sometimes in my head I'm like, I compare myself to people where I'm like, okay, this person is this age and they're doing this, and it's just like how I always view this stuff. But no, like I know like 24 isn't old, like 27 isn't old. It's not that bad. It's not bad at all.
I feel because I'm 27, I'm like, is it too old to be like starting this?
No, not at all.
I was
100%.
You know, just with like everything in life, I go rock climbing as well. I'm like, why did I start this so much younger?
It's all about starting. Once you start, like it's about finding that passion. I think a big thing for me was the lockdown. Like I went into lockdown having just recently turned 22, and then I've left it having turned 24. So like there's a thing where I'm like, oh, I've missed my like young 20s. But at the same time, like it's still been done some really cool stuff. It's just for me personally, I've always had a thing with like my age. I don't know what it is. Even when I joined Football Daily, like I was always like the young one and all that kind of stuff. Like I've
always been the young one. Always, and like the old one.
no, not at all. It is this weird thing that it's all me. Like it's a personal thing for me that I've always had. But I think like I've kind of got to the point now where I'm like, you know what, screw it. There's no point in worrying about that stuff. Because also like you read things as well where you're like, oh, this famous actor didn't get their first thing until like in their 30s. Like I remember I was Googling a couple of days ago because I was watching Friends, and it was like, oh, the actor who plays I've forgotten his name. Ross. Ross, yeah, the guy who plays Ross. He was like 31 when that show started. So that stuff always kind of helps me a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But there's still loads of time.
It's always funny when I tell people my age because they're like, I thought you were actually 16 years old.
It's a good thing. I guess. People looking younger, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Football. Well, you mentioned Football Daily. They asked, what will your first drink at per goal? I totally.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that is my flatmate who's upstairs right now. I'm pretty sure. I can't drink. I drink anything and everything, to be quite honest. I'm not like someone that's like, I won't touch this won't touch that. Not looking to get too on it tonight, I'll be quite honest. Got some stuff happening on the weekend where maybe I'll let loose a little bit more then. But if I had to pick G&T, maybe a beer, I don't know. I don't know, really.
I always go for a red wine, and in Spain.
I actually okay, so this is when obviously I was very, very lucky enough. Chelsea took me to the Champions League final in Porto. So fortunate. But one of those nights also, like, I'm not really a wine drinker. Like, I've never done that. But we went to this place in Porto, and it's a beautiful city. Like, I had no expectation for it. It's amazing. I'm 100% going to go back one day. Food was brilliant. But we went to this steak place, and it was so surreal. But it was like me and Pat Nevin, like, having steak, and he was like, "Oh, you've got to try. Like, you got to have wine. You got to have wine with the steak and all this, and trying that." And then also, like, afterwards, he's like, "You got to try this port and all this kind of stuff." Like
like this special. Did you try like this special wine from Porto?
Oh yeah. Like, I'm sold on it now. I'm sold on it, and I'd happily have that kind of stuff. But I feel like it needs to be more of like an event than a like.
I feel you. Yeah, I had that wine, and I was like, oh, this is like very, very strong. And now I just have like my Spanish wine that's €2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to go to the shop anytime soon just buying loads of red wine. But every now and again, it's a treat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay. I kind of just like not talking about football and just talking about random things.
It's my favorite thing. You know what? Talking not about football is like because obviously you do it so much all the time. And like every single day, 24/7. Like whenever I do things on YouTube that isn't football, or I'm not talking about football, like, I absolutely love it. But I love talking about football, of course, as well. But it always just feels like such a breath of fresh air.
Somebody goes, talk Chelsea, please.
Fair enough.
We're enjoying our chat. Thank you. But all right, we can go in and out. We can transition, you guys. It's cool, and we can talk. We'll see where this stream takes us, to be honest. I've had a long day. I actually woke up at like 7 a.m.
Oh wow!
I usually wake up that early, so it's been a long one. So getting back to Chelsea, let's go, you guys. Thanks for indulging us in our combo. Sam asks, who would you start in the front three versus Spurs? And I like this question because Timo Werner hasn't started any match under Thomas Tuchel this season since the arrival of Romelu Lukaku. And I was actually surprised that he didn't start versus Zenit. I really thought that was going to be a game that we saw him starting. And I didn't feel that CH brought that much to the game. I actually didn't realize he was playing for the first 30-ish minutes or so. I just was expecting more from him. So do you think that Timo starts versus Spurs? And if not, who's your front three?
I tell you what, trying to guess the starting lineup for Tuchel is impossible. It's like the hardest job in the world. And he's never wrong. Like, he's never wrong as well. Like, it always works out.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Chilwell was going to start as well against Zenit. That didn't happen.
I did as well. Yeah.
Against Spurs. Like, I'm just so clueless all the time now about it. But this kind of it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. For us, we sit there not knowing, but then also at the same time, the opposition has no idea who's going to play against them. Like, personally, I would probably say it'd be a Mount, Lukaku, Kai Havertz front three, just because that feels like what the if there was a main front three, that's what it would be. But then I wouldn't be surprised if he then went and started Timo Werner for pace, possibly. If he started Ziyech, because during pre-season, Ziyech was amazing. And also, Ziyech is a weird one because when he's on it, he can be the best player on the pitch. He really can. Like, he can change games fantastically. He's creatively outrageous, and his left foot is magical. When he's not so on it, you notice it a bit more. Like, his tracking back isn't as keen. Like, if Mason, for instance, if Mason Mount's having a bad game, maybe creatively, he's still putting in lots of effort, working hard to get the ball back, tracking back. And so you don't really notice it as much. Whereas with Ziyech, it's like, okay, if he's not giving us the attacking output that we want, then we're not also getting any defensive output either. So I'm not so sure whether. Yeah, I kind of go with the Havertz because he's been brilliant recently. Like I made a kind of out there shout that like Havertz could possibly win Young Player of the Year or Player of the Year in the Premier League, just because of how he's really coming into his own at the moment, and it's so impressive. But yeah, no. So like I think it could be a Mount. Romelu Lukaku, because he's really the only name on the team sheet you can guarantee. And then Kai Havertz.
Yeah, that's what I would go for as well, I think. And then you can bring Timo off the bench like 60th minute mark to still try to affect the game. If Chelsea haven't scored, I really hope that we do. But I guess we can kind of just go through maybe, I don't know if necessarily a predicted or preferred starting 11, because it's slightly different, and I never end up predicting them right, but just kind of get your thoughts. It's been really hard. Like I felt like last season the defense was more or less nailed on, and then this season I have absolutely no clue who's starting in defense. What about you?
No, I'm the exact same. I would probably, obviously Mendy's the goalkeeper, but then again, wouldn't be shocked if he then just made a shot change at this point. I would also say Aspie. I think Christensen. Also wouldn't be shocked if it was Thiago Silva. And then Rudiger. I'd then expect Reece. Is Reece James back from red card?
I think he is.
Yes. Okay. Then yeah, I'd expect Reece James to come back in there. Left wing back, God knows. Like the fact that Chilwell got a few minutes maybe suggests to me that actually he wanted him to get back into the game so he's ready for the weekend. But then we also know Alonso loves playing Spurs. He's
I
fantastic.
know, that's the thing, and I thought well, Chilwell hasn't played. He hasn't started. He hasn't played since May, effectively. Yeah. So I understand why Tuchel's going with Marcos Alonso. But I thought, surely you're probably going to start Alonso versus Spurs because it's going to be a high intense game, and you're not going to throw Chilwell into that. So I thought that's why he would start him against Zenit or Zenit, but that wasn't the case. So now I'm very confused if he's actually going to start him or if he's still going. I feel like he's still going to go with Alonso, and I kind of feel bad for Ben Chilwell because I don't think he's done anything wrong. He had an incredible performance in the final of the Champions League, and then just didn't get to play for country in the Euros, and now he's finding it hard to get into that Chelsea side, but overall, I do think like he will be Chelsea's starting left wing back.
100%. I completely agree. Like I've yet to interview him or anything like that yet, but I've bumped into him a few times, and he's lovely. He's a lovely.
Casual. Does he actually look like a Disney prince in real life?
Yeah, his hair is immaculate, but he is like really, really nice. Like he's like, I mean, the first time he said, "Oh, it's like a pleasure to meet you," and I was like, meet me. I was like, you're the kid here, mate. You just won the Champions League. But I felt for him as well, especially the Euros, because I was like, I understood that Luke Shaw has been amazing, and he was definitely the better left back against during that period. But then when Kieran Trippier got a start at left back, I thought Chilwell was quite unfortunate not to at least get a game. But yeah, no. So Chilwell 100% is the future at left wing back, and I think the one thing we've kind of learned about Tuchel was very, very careful with like. He only wants to play players when they're physically ready and mentally ready. And once he's got something in his head where he's like, actually at the moment, probably not quite ready for it, he always is very careful about what he does, which is fair enough. Like he's the manager. And I'm pretty sure I read an article saying that Tuchel even Chilwell went to Tuchel's offices to ask like, why, what can I do and all this. And he came out of it pretty positive. And it seemed pretty good. So as I said, like I wouldn't be surprised within the next 5 games he's the starting left wing back. It felt that's personally my opinion. It may be a bit tough because we're about to play 2 very high intensity games, and he's not had that game time to play just yet. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso started Spurs and City, but then in between.
Like I am nervous.
Yeah, because what could possibly happen as well then is Alonso plays against Spurs, but then Aston Villa, Chilwell comes in, and then Chilwell plays against against City, which might also be the expectation. But I mean, if I'm Ben Chilwell, like I think he's what, 25, 26, like he's got, as you kind of said, he's the future of the left back and left wing back position for Chelsea, unless we're doing something mental and Pulisic plays there or something crazy like that. I don't know. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. And Emerson was the only other guy that could have played that position. He's not even at the club at the moment. He's on loan at Lyon. So I wouldn't be too worried if I'm Ben Chilwell. And if anything, like, just he'll keep doing what he does. Like, he's an elite professional, and he'll be back in that side in no time.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you touched on the most is that Thomas Tuchel has really great man management, and I feel like everybody in the squad knows where they stand, and they know that they're going to be given their opportunity. And at the end of the day, I think it's good for Chilwell because he knows that he can't get too comfortable in his position, that Marcus Alonso at one point was completely on the in the fringes, and he didn't really have competition for the spot. But now he does have competition. He knows, well, if I don't perform, then Alonso could have another run and I'm not going to get to play. So I think at the end of the day, it kind of like pushes you that you want to perform, you want to play well, because you know that somebody's breathing down your neck, gunning for your spot as well.
Yeah, 100%. Because competition is only a good thing. Like, maybe personally, it's never as great, but from a fan's point of view, from a manager's point of view, like, having competition is only going to get the best out of your players. And if someone like Marcos Alonso, who we know at times it can be a brilliant left wing back, and maybe one of the best wing backs in the world, if he's the guy that you're chasing and trying to get above, like, that's only going to improve yourself. And once he gets those kind of minutes and game time, like, it's all about taking it during the games and kind of and once you get your opportunity, making sure that reason is why Tuchel starts you.
1,000%. Do you think that we're going to see Marcus Alonso classic Spurs goal this weekend?
I wouldn't be surprised. Free kick. I mean, there was a period I remember where it was like kind of a joke, but I was like, oh, we should play Alonso up front.
I was like joking, but not joking.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it's always been something that I've been like quite intrigued about. And I've just, because he's so good. He's one of the best strikers of the ball at the club. Like, he can hit the ball fantastically, reads it really well, and his movement's really, really good. So I've always kind of been like, why don't they just give it a go, give it a try? Why not? Because at times it feels like when we are attacking so much and he's that left wing back, it's almost as if he's playing like the second striker anyway. So yeah, maybe I doubt we're ever going to see it, but I do kind of one day want to see him play up top for sure.
I saw that this tweet, I don't know who it's from, but I saw it on Twitter that somebody's like, whoever saw Marcus Alonso and put him as a left back, like, we missed a brilliant opportunity to see the best striker of our generation.
100%. He could have been Spain's top goal scorer by now, honestly. He's an absolute hero with it. It's brilliant.
I know. Oh god, that's so funny. I just find it like so intriguing how every season like Marcus Alonso somehow has like this massive like remontada and he's always coming back. And I saw like that he's been at the club for 5 years, and I was like, I feel like it's been so much longer. I don't know why. I feel like he's been at the club forever. Like, Marcus Alonso is the club.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the longest players there, to be quite honest. I mean, it's impressive from him, to considering that, like, in the summer there were rumours about him leaving, and I think one of the first deals with Lukaku was that Alonso would go to Inter Milan, and Inter Milan said no. And so for him to kind of have that, where people were kind of willing, I guess, to let him go, and then to come back in and be brilliant, speaks a lot about the level that he plays at.
1,000%. So guys, if you have any questions for us, like, there haven't been too many, so if you do have any, let us know. But if not, we're just gonna keep on chatting away, I guess. I do want to ask you mentioned Pulisic, and he has been one of my favorite players, but he just has not gotten the consistent form. He's been plagued with injuries, but he's just 22. So what do you think is going on with Pulisic? Do you think he's injury prone? Do you think that he just gets bad tackles, maybe needs to be protected a bit more by the referees? And do you see him kind of getting a mainstay? Because we know that he can be so good when he's on it, but he does need a run of games in order to get on it.
Yeah, it's a tough one with Pulisic. I think people forget how young he is. Like 22 is ridiculously young for a player. Like there was, only 5 years ago, if you were 22, you're probably just about starting in the starting 11. He's already won the Champions League. He won the Gold Cup, I think, as well with America. I would also probably say, yeah, he does maybe need a bit more protection from referees. There's a thing that I'm not to say the officiating, I think in CONCACAF isn't great, but I do feel like he will get targeted. Obviously, he's the kind of Captain America of the USA squad, and so he's maybe that standout player. And when he gets the ball, he's getting tackled a lot more, and he has to ride tackles a lot more. He's kind of that build of not the same player, but he has that Jack Grealish about him, where he will be the guy that is willing to take on players, dribble through them, and because of that, it's about whether his body can take it and whether he can ride these challenges. And there's only so many you can take. Like Eden Hazard was amazing at it. He's amazing at it, and luckily for his body could take it. Like, I mean, we've now seen at Real Madrid play it can't, and we luckily got the best years from it. And hopefully this season for him goes really well. But I do worry that Pulisic is maybe getting towards that. I mean, injury prone is a weird one because players can be injury prone for like a few years and then not get another injury for another couple of years after that. So it depends. But sorry. Got to stop. Yeah, but I kind of believe like if Pulisic is on his day and he is consistent, he can be one of the best players in the Premier League. He can be one of the best wingers in the world. And as we mentioned, still only 22. He's got so much time to develop, and this Chelsea squad is so young, and he can be such a huge part of that for years to come. The way he's gone about his career, I think, has been brilliant. Obviously, spending a lot of time at Dortmund and then moving to Chelsea, I thought was a perfect step. And he's got the perfect manager right now in Thomas Tuchel, who knows of his ability. It's just that every time he's about to get that chance to kind of play or to have a good amount of game time, he picks up a knock. And the other shame is that like it doesn't seem like it's the same recurring injuries. It's a few different ones. Like there's an ankle injury or there's a hamstring injury, and so I really hope, because I've always kind of said that like when we were signing all these players at times, or this summer before we'd signed Lukaku, I kind of believed that okay, like if we keep a fit Pulisic, we have kind of a new player there anyway. Yeah. Because when he is on form, he is absolutely brilliant and terrifying for defenses. But yeah, it's just about whether he can stay fit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the other thing with this system is that really playing 5 at the back or 3-5-2 or whatever you want to call it, you essentially put in a center back for an attacking.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree.
And so there's so much. You have really all of these attackers. You have Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Romelu Lukaku, Mason Mount, really Callum Pulisic, Ziyech. That's just off the top of my head, all fighting for three spots.
Yeah.
Lukaku is nailed on, and then Mason is nailed on 80% of the time, probably. So it's really just one spot that they're fighting for. I think it's really difficult. Kind of knowing that, do you think like in any of these games, maybe against a team that plays a low block, maybe you don't necessarily need the 3 center backs? Do you think that we could potentially see a formation change, or we're probably just going to stick with what we know?
I honestly just have no idea. Like it gets to the point where because I had the belief that I thought Tuchel had done this formation because he'd come in and to shore up the defense and kind of go through there, and then he won the Champions League, and so he was like, should probably keep it, to be honest, and it's a fair enough reason. Like I understand, but because I kind of believe that with the Chelsea's assets, the best way is obviously a 4 at the back. But when it's working so well, if it ain't broke, like don't fix it. There's no need to. But you are right. Like obviously having an extra defender then removes an extra attacker, and that when we have so many attackers, that is quite unfortunate for the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, maybe Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech. But then in another way, you look at it and you go, okay, maybe having that extra defender has been brilliant for Azpilicueta. It's been brilliant for Trevor Chalobah. We've seen Rudiger's best form at this 3 at the back. Christensen's come through with brilliant. So there's always a silver lining, and one positive also then leads to maybe one negative. And so I do get it. But at this point, like unless something was to go Maybe he'll trial things in games against like in the EFL Cup or in the FA Cup when that comes along, or maybe he'll trial things or do it every now and again to change up. And the other thing as well is like when Chelsea play with this back three, sometimes you see Aspie kind of move. You see him do that cross, right? He moves in and we kind of go to that four at the back anyway. Rudiger can go forward. And so it's ever changing all the time, just not necessarily with the traditional attacking players that we're so used to. And I don't know, maybe one day, like I'd like to see him bring a four at the back, because I think he played that at PSG as well. And so like I'd like to maybe see him bring that back and trial it, and that way it gives him another option. But I just think at the moment with things going so well, like I doubt he's going to do it anytime soon.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, against the really tough teams where you're not going to have that much possession, it absolutely makes sense. But I kind of just want to see it one game, in a game where that you're going to have 60, maybe even 70% possession, just to see how it works out and see if maybe, if the back line does get too stretched, maybe the players do need that extra center back for protection, then we know. But just to kind of, I just feel like we have so many attackers, and I feel bad that they're not all getting that much game.
No, I completely agree, and it was only made worse as well when Tammy was there. There was an extra player to kind of add to that. I remember one game. I think he did try it, and it didn't go well. I remember, was it Barnsley in the FA Cup?
I'm like terrible with remembering these.
Yeah,
things.
So I'm pretty sure it was Barnsley. Sorry, I'm pretty sure against Barnsley we did a four at the back in some way. I don't know if it was like we changed to it or we started with it, and I just remember it didn't like. And to be fair, the Barnsley manager is now the West Brom manager, and he was fantastic. Like the squad were really, really good, and he's a brilliant manager. And I'm sure we'll see him in the Premier League really soon. And he got his tactics spot on. He made it a really tough game. But I do remember like we going to a four at the back and it wasn't working, and I think maybe he tried it then and was just like, "Oh God, like this, what have we done here?"
Never.
Yeah. He's like, "Okay, we'll give it a year and maybe try another time later on."
Maybe we'll revisit it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure he. I mean, this is Thomas Tuchel. Like he's 100% thought about it. But I guess at the moment, with the way he seems to, like, people look at the formation we play, and to maybe the first glance, people would say, "Oh, it looks like quite a defensive formation," but it isn't like five at the back. It's an attacking three at the back, and so it's not necessarily losing any attacking. You're just losing a specific attacker and gaining a specific defender.
Yeah. Totally agree. And kind of transitioning a little bit, we have a question, and it says, do you see Cho at Dortmund? And the reason that I kind of like float this together is because he hasn't been getting that much game time. I don't really see him getting so much game time when there's a lot of players ahead of him, especially now that Djellab can really slide into right center back. So then you can have Azpilicueta as the right wing back. You can have Reece James as the right wing back. And I think they're kind of ahead of him in the pecking order in terms of starting. So I'll kind of change this question a little bit, make it twofold. Do you think that Callum should have gone on loan to Dortmund or to anywhere, knowing that he's probably not going to get so much game time? And two, do you see this potentially happening in the winter transfer window or next summer?
It's difficult. I kind of look at it from 2 point of views. From the Callum Hudson-Odoi point of view, 100%. Like Dortmund would have been the perfect place. They've just lost Jadon Sancho. He can play on that wing, left or right. He would have been playing in an ideal club for him that like will be giving him minutes, playing with Erling Haaland, playing with Bellingham, getting that connection strong with Bellingham to get him to the club next year. He's an absolute. I love that guy to bits, man. I really do. Chelsea do make a move for him. But no, like from Callum's point of view, 100%. And Chelsea know this. Like I've seen Chelsea come out and they understand that, yes, this would have been brilliant for Callum. However, from Chelsea's point of view and Tuchel's point of view, you're challenging for a Premier League. You're challenging for the Champions League, the FA Cup. You've got the Club World Cup coming up as well. Like you've got so many competitions and so many games coming up. And even though, okay, 35 games, 40 games at Borussia Dortmund would have been perfect for Callum personally, Chelsea are going to need him, whether that is as a substitute, whether that is as a utility player, whether that is as someone that will eventually start if there are injuries. It would be risky. Like, say worst comes to worst, we went through a period where Pulisic was injured, Ziyech got injured, Kai Havertz also got injured. We're then looking like, okay, we've only got our front three, and then we're going to have to rely on getting Ross Barkley back in and getting these guys back in. And so, like, Callum is essentially ahead of all the reserves, but he is on the bench at the moment, and he's and we know like the ability that he has, and he's such a fun player to watch. He's, you know, the fact that he's from Cobham as well, it adds all to it. And it is sad, like, because you get both sides. Like, you understand, like, for him personally, he wants to get back in the England team. I'm sure he wants to try and play in the World Cup next year, but he needs those minutes, and but then also Chelsea need to keep him to make sure that they have every best opportunity of winning all the competitions now. And so, yeah, it is difficult. As for whether he'll go on loan in winter, like, I really just don't know. It gets to a point, because even then, like, we're going to be it'll be the same situation of, we could be even further in the Champions League. We could be battling with City and Liverpool and United for the Premier League still. And so you want all these players who can potentially be game changers. And even though they may not play as many minutes as for Callum's instance, he could win us 3 points, or these massive points that will win us the Premier League or something. So I do understand both sides, and I am very sympathetic for Callum's side. But it's like part of the kind of career, I guess, of a footballer. Like, he was unfortunate that he came through so early and he got that injury, because you think when Frank Lampard first came in, if he wasn't injured, he probably would have been playing every single game, week in, week out, just like Tammy, just like Mason, just like Reece James. And then every time he kind of gets a minute or two, and to be fair to him, it's not in his preferred position of left wing, and that's completely fair enough. He's having to do a job at right wing back, or a position that isn't in his natural position. So I do get it, but he's not necessarily set the world alight there. And as I said, like, it's fair enough, because he's not his position. So yeah, it's an awkward one, because in this Chelsea squad there are so many positives, but Callum, like, him, I guess, not playing is that maybe like one little negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, like, it will be important, kind of like the theme that we've been saying, that Tuchel will need to try to give him these opportunities, try to play him to keep him happy as well, and hopefully he gets enough minutes. I don't think him playing in that utility role are enough minutes for what he needs right now at this stage of his development. But like you said, I totally understand why it's happened.
Well, Tuchel loves him, man. Like, we saw when he first started, he was playing him. He wanted him to kind of play in that right wing back position. Like, he has a good relationship with Thomas Tuchel. I even think Callum said no. I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure Callum said no to going to the under-21 England camp in September, because he wanted to focus on his time at Chelsea and getting back into that squad. But yeah, like, it is an awkward one where, and I agree, maybe actually those minutes at right wing back aren't good for his personal career, but for Thomas Tuchel, he sits there and goes, well, Reece James has got a red card, and Aspie needs to play, and so you need to do this for the team, and he does it. And to be fair to him, he does the best of his ability, and I've never come away thinking Callum was so bad. Like, I've always kind of felt Callum has been pretty good there, for a player that isn't his natural position and hasn't really grown up playing there and doing defensive work, which has just never been a part of his game. And so I think he's been very professional about it, considering he's also, is he 20? So yeah, like, incredibly young. He's got such, I mean, we talk about the kind of Ben Chilwell situation. He's 26, 25. I mean, Callum's just turned 20, and he's got so much time ahead of him. So he'll come good. I always believe it. And maybe, you know what? Maybe next summer there's a loan opportunity. Yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and see with Callum.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, I think it also depends, like, what players Chelsea bring back. Like, we're seeing Conor Gallagher is absolutely killing it at Crystal Palace this season, so he's one that I think Chelsea definitely are going to want to have in the team next season. Billy Gilmore as well. I see you.
Man. Well, this is the awkward thing with Callum, is that, like, Chelsea know he is very good. Like, Chelsea know he has the potential to be starting week in, week out right now. Whereas, for instance, with Conor Gallagher, Chelsea were a bit more, or at least in my opinion, were a bit more 50-50. Obviously, he was very, very good at West Brom, but Chelsea may be like, oh, okay, is he Chelsea level? Obviously, at Palace right now, he's showing how great he is, and I'm pretty sure even when he comes back next year, like he'll be fighting for that place. With Callum, Chelsea sit there and go, well, we know he's good enough to be playing in the Premier League. We know he's good enough playing for Chelsea, so why don't we keep him? But as you're right, maybe next year when Connor comes, Callum goes on loan somewhere, and that's when he can really get his game time. As for Billy, like, oh my lord, I love that man to bits. He's unreal, and I really do reckon it won't be too long until we see him starting as well.
I know, like just casually putting man of the match performances in at 19 years old.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely insane. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, it's like crazy. I'll get to a couple more viewer questions. So guys, if you have any questions, even specifically for Zac, because I know a lot of people are super excited that you're on, Zac, feel free to check them in there as well. We have a question that says, are there any plans for more Chelsea Unscripted episodes? Love that show.
Possibly. It's basically in development at the moment, and then like hopefully, I don't know when, but the idea is to have it this season for sure. As I said, I'm not too sure when. I think Chelsea are just sorting things out like behind the scenes and all stuff that really doesn't involve me. And so I think it's just waiting for that stuff to kind of get like approved and then go start and go through it. And I'm not exactly sure things, whether it'll be weekly or fortnightly or whatever it'll be, but I'm looking excited. I'm very excited for that, and hopefully as well, like it'll be back in person. Like it got to a point last year where you were doing Zoom calls every other week. It just felt there's only so much you can do over a Zoom call, where in person, like you create that connection. You have a bit of a joke off screen. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
So cool, honestly. Rowdy has asked Ellie, can Chelsea do a double this season?
Oh, I mean, Chelsea can do a triple if they so like they have the players to, they have the ability to. I mean, it'll be the third. If we get to the FA Cup final again, it'll be the third time in a row, and they say third time's the charm, right? And with the Premier League, they have every capability. They've got the squad depth to do so. Champions League is obviously going to be a bit more difficult, but I feel actually Thomas Tuchel thrives in a kind of Champions League, a knockout scenario. He understands what to do in a two-leg in a final. He's brilliant at it. Like I wouldn't necessarily be too surprised if it was a City Chelsea final again. I really wouldn't.
I hope not. I was like, I was not well that day. I was not well.
I'm not surprised. I'd actually be quite shocked.
That sucks. What do you
I'd be quite shocked actually if probably it was the exact same again. I don't know when the last time that was in history, but I mean the real one for Thomas Tuchel is the Premier League. Like how we can see he can do it in knockout competition. Can he do it over 38 games? Like there were games last season as well. We struggled in Aston Villa in the last game of the season. We lost 3-0, not 3-0, 2-1. Sorry. But obviously now he's got Romelu Lukaku, and they didn't have that last season, and he's been brilliant so far. And so I believe Chelsea Chelsea were really good last season, but they had places to improve. They've now improved on those areas, so I can believe they can do the same as last season plus some. I wouldn't be too shocked if they did a double at all.
I really hope so. Kind of looking that, Chelsea are playing, and you have the entire season. It's like 38 games or whatever it is. Do you think that Chelsea can compete for that long? Because I feel like we have struggled a bit with the low blocks. So do you think that that's something that we're going to kind of get over this season? And what do you have any ideas about maybe what Chelsea can do? Because it feels like maybe we need to have the right players to click, or maybe they just need more time together. But it's an interesting one.
I think the time together will help for sure. I mean, by October, I believe we'll be in full flow. I think the big thing is having Lukaku. Like that's one of the best things. But we saw it when we had Eden Hazard. Like when you have one of the best players in the world, the games when you're going to draw, when you maybe are going to lose, when you have that player who can make something out of nothing, like the Aston Villa second, both of his goals at Aston Villa are unreal. They're so good,
ridiculous.
Yeah, they are ridiculous. When you have a player that can do that, that can take a game by his own hands, and a game like, say, Zenit, St. Petersburg, where they're sitting back, defending really deep, and essentially Chelsea are just being patient, waiting for that one half little chance for Lukaku to grab onto. Previously, we've not had that. Like, Werner obviously showed that he's more of a kind of, he's developed his creative game, and I'm sure he's also going to come good as well. Kai Havertz was also fitting in last season. Like, these things where, like, Kai's now finding his feet, you hope Werner will as well. Mason Mount's another year older of experience and getting better and better. Reece James, the fact that we've still got N'Golo Kante, who's always amazing whenever he's on the pitch, and then you've added Lukaku, who will win you games and get you so many points. Like, that's the big one. Like, any low block now, but we've got Lukaku in the side, like, I still believe us to score. Whereas maybe previously it felt a lot more difficult to do so.
Totally agree. And kind of last question, I'll get wrapping it up because we've been talking for almost an hour, which is absolutely insane. But right now, Chelsea, Liverpool, United, all on the same points, City right behind, 1 point below. Do you think that we're going to see this really, really tight race this season?
It's going to be awful to watch. It's going to be like mind-bogglingly close. Like, I see it coming down to the final day. I really do. I think the games between each other are going to be the big ones. That's going to determine who wins what. The fact we've already drawn with Liverpool is pretty good away from home. The game against City is going to be massive. Sorry. The game against City is going to be huge when we play them next weekend. So yeah, those are the big ones. The one thing we also have to make sure is that, like, the games against, say, which we have stumbled across sometimes over the past few seasons, the games against your Burnleys, your West Broms last season, we've got to make sure we win those ones. We can't be like because it makes it redundant. Like, what's the point in beating Man City, and then losing to West Brom? It's very hard. I mean, it's easier said than done for sure. Like, I see a lot of teams. I don't see a lot of teams dropping points out of the City, Liverpool, and United. Even though United kind of already have. I think it's going to be very, very tough. I think it's going to come down to the last day personally, which is going to be nail biting as a fan.
I know. Ozzy has just made a crazy prediction. Man United to miss top 4. That is nuts.
I don't know about that. I'm not so sure about that.
I don't know if they'll get a result against the big teams, because I feel like they tend to go in a little bit more reserved against the top 6, so to speak. But I still think that you have Cristiano Ronaldo, he's going to win the games.
Exactly. Like, I probably see Ronaldo getting them like 6 to 9 points himself, which will be which puts him into the top 4. But yeah, no, the way I predicted mine this season is a Chelsea, City, United, Liverpool, but it could all change. Like, it could all change. Another thing is injuries as well, right? Like, if United pick up an injury, if Liverpool pick up an injury, they already picked up one with Harvey Elliott. Things can go down here very quickly. Whereas for Chelsea, we can change things about. The only big one is if Lukaku. So sorry. Is if Lukaku got injured, like, that would be quite a big one for us. Same, I guess, for City is like if De Bruyne got injured and things like that. So yeah, like, it could easily come down to who has the fittest squad as well.
Yeah, totally. So I'm already nervous. I'm already nervous for all the games. I'm nervous for every Chelsea game. But Zac, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You on for like the longest time, so I'm so happy to have you on. And if you have any last words, feel free to say whatever.
Hopefully Chelsea beats Spurs. That's all I can say for now. Thank you for having me very much. I really appreciate it. It's always good fun just talking football.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, honestly, way more people tuned in than I expected, given how early it is in the UK, like, work-wise. So that's phenomenal. Thank you guys for watching. I really enjoyed it. We'll definitely have Zac back on the channel. And yeah, thanks for taking time out of your day to listen to us talk Chelsea. Really appreciate it. So guys, hope you have a great rest of your days. And until next time, I'm out.